Welcome to Dr. Vape. My name is Dr. Keith Diorio. I'm a medical doctor, trained as a family practitioner, who, through my own personal experience dealing with injury, trauma, I was led to explore alternative medical techniques, and as a result I became an acupuncturist, an herbalist, a nutritionist, a prolotherapist, a neurotherapist, and a homeopath. And from my experience taking care of tens of thousands of patients over the last 25 years at my clinic in Santa Monica, I came to certain conclusions about how the human body actually functions. And the human body actually is a holographic projection. Many physicists today, including Stephen Hawking, who recently died, has basically determined that, based on mathematical principles and physical principles, that the universe that we live in is one large hologram. And there's the mathematical equations to actually substantiate that concept. So through the combination of physics and homeopathic principles, I developed the concept that we call holocode. And what that basically is saying is that each and every one of us has a holographic blueprint of ourselves. And according to Stephen Hawking, this blueprint exists someplace out in the universe, possibly within black holes. And this holocode, or holo image, actually encodes for our entire body structure. All the organs, all the glands, all the tissues. And this code is made up of potentially millions and billions of gigabytes of data. This code is then projected once enough light information, photonic information, illuminates it. And when it becomes properly illuminated, it sends out a holographic projection of you into space. Eventually it hits what's called the Higgs field, and then via the Higgs boson, which is also known as the God particle, this information converts into physical matter form. In other words, we're taking photonic energy and then it converts into actual physical matter structure. And this conversion process actually occurs through water. That's why water is always found anywhere where there is living beings or living entities. And so water plays a crucial role in the conversion of light or energy into physical matter form. And this is really important because homeopathy is also based on this type of concept where you're dealing with an energetic signature, typically from, say, a plant, or it could be from a disease or from a poison. And this signature is made up of certain photonic data points. And by taking a homeopathic remedy with certain photonic data points, it's able to illuminate or super illuminate certain parts of our holocode, of our image, this holographic image. And this information is, once you take, say, for example, a homeopathic remedy, this information is sent interdimensionally back to the hologram located at the black hole, and it illuminates your hologram. And as we know, like with Princess Leia, the Disney character, Star Wars character, Disneyland used to sell these holograms. If you send light through the hologram, it then projects a holographic image. Well, the same thing's happening here. If you take, say, a homeopathic remedy that has a certain energy signature, and you take it, and what happens, your brain is like the projector, so to speak. It's sending this light information back to your hologram, and the hologram becomes illuminated. When it becomes illuminated, it then sends out a holographic projection of you. And when that information then hits the Higgs field, which is like kind of a matrix, an energetic matrix, via the God particle, or the Higgs boson, and then converts into physical matter form. So this system can actually be captured using advanced camera technology. The high megapixel cameras that are now available on every one of our smartphones allows us to capture this information, because since everything is based on light, especially like on a subatomic level, you know, we think about matter, like this desk. We think this desk is solid, but actually, according to modern physics, it's 99.99% space. And it's, even though it has a structure to it, subatomically, it's just basically light or energy. The same thing applies to our bodies. So our bodies are emitting a photonic signature which the cameras are picking up. This information can then be produced using, you know, production software that allows for the conversion of all this information into, say, a video format, and then this information can then be played through a TV set, a 4K TV set, into specially treated water, and we call this water holocode water. So this information, because water has very unique properties that allow it to actually capture or hold or resonate with this information that it's being exposed to, it actually stores all this data in the water molecule. The water molecule is structured, and it actually changes its covalent bonding to allow for this information to be stored. So all the different digital information I'm talking about through using these high megapixel cameras can actually be imprinted into water. And when you drink this water of you, for example, it actually then is sent via the brain, just like what I was explaining with the homeopathic remedies. It's sent via the brain back to the hologram of you, and it then illuminates the hologram. And as the hologram becomes illuminated, it then sends out a holographic projection of you, or a more accurate or more illuminated holographic projection of you, hits the Higgs field, converts into physical matter via the Higgs boson, and then your physical tissues, your organs, your glands, you know, your hair, your skin, your nails, all become more perfectly manifested in this three-dimensional reality that we experience as, you know, as the world. But really the world is just simply a holographic projection that is actually moving from a kind of a 2D space into a three-dimensional space. And this is what actually gives us this sensation of form and structure and being solid and everything that we experience in the physical world. So this concept is basically what I call holographic homeopathy. And in homeopathy, there's a concept called like cures like. And like cures like means that if you take a compound or substance that has certain associated properties with it that can induce or treat certain symptoms in the human body, we say that those similar symptoms can actually treat similar symptoms in the human being. And a good example actually is, for example, ipecac. In homeopathy, ipecac is a homeopathic remedy. In its pure form, it's used to treat people with nausea or vomiting, or say somebody who has, say, taken a poison, and they need to induce vomiting. They would then give ipecac in its pure form to that individual. Typically, it's found in many medicine cabinets. They give that pure form ipecac to the person, and it would induce vomiting. Well, in its homeopathic form, if you take ipecac and you put it into potency, potency basically means that you take the original substance, you put it into an alcohol-water mixture, you succuss it numerous times, dilute out the physical material form of it, and you're left with a vibrational or energetic form of it. That would be a homeopathic potency or homeopathic remedy. If you have somebody who's vomiting or has nausea and you give them the homeopathic ipecac, it takes away the symptoms. So this was the whole concept of like cures like. It's the number one principle in homeopathy, that the entire system, the entire medical system of homeopathy is based upon. Well, what could be closer to like than the person themselves? The person themselves obviously has the entire, or potentially the entire photonic blueprint of themselves on some level that their body's basically emitting. Even if it's being emitted on very, very low light levels. You know, like we talk about lumens of light. You go to a premiere and you see those big lights crossing in the sky. Well, that might be 1,000,000 lumens of light. The light that's in the ceiling right here, maybe it's only 500 or 600 lumens of light. Well, what if the human holocode on a photonic level is 0.0001 lumen? Well, that's where high megapixel cameras come into play, because their sensors are so sensitive that they can capture this very, very low light information. And that's the general concept that we're doing here with the holocode technology. We use high megapixel cameras, or you can actually take your cell phone and take a selfie of yourself. And your camera is actually capturing all the photonic data of you that your body is emitting. And you then take that information, you then play the video back to a bottle of holocode water, and that information gets picked up by the water, and then you drink that water, and you're basically like drinking photonic information of you. So going back to the concept of like cures like, there is nothing that can be closer to a like cures like principle than actually using your own body, as opposed to going out into nature and finding different substances and converting them into homeopathic remedies, which has been what's been done in homeopathy for the last 150 years. I discovered, like I said, treating tens of thousands of patients as a medical doctor, trained in homeopathy, as well as numerous other alternative medical disciplines, that it's actually much more effective to actually just use high megapixel cameras or high 4K video of that individual, and then take that information using, very, high-speed computer systems and software, convert that information into a video, and then play it through a 4K TV set, or even your 4K screen on your cell phone, into the water. Water picks it up. All that information is now in the water. Drink that water. Brain sends all that photonic information back to your hologram. The hologram becomes illuminated, and then it sends out a more accurate projection, holographic projection of you, which then converts via the God particle into physical matter tissue form. Now, this holocode or holo image that I'm talking about is gigantic. It could be in the order of magnitude of 10 to the 100th power or greater. So, gigabytes. So this information is so large that in order to properly, actually fully illuminate this hologram of you floating in, in the black hole, that hologram has to basically, that holographic data has to be captured over a period of time, because there's so much of it. And this data can only be captured incrementally, serially, over time. So it's a good idea to repeat these captures, these selfies of yourself, or what we call holoscans. There's two different forms of selfies. A professional medical grade selfie, which we conduct at our clinic, and then a more easier to obtain personal selfie that you can actually just use your cell phone to capture. But the basic concept is the same. Our cameras have been specially converted. We've removed the infrared filters and the UV filters so that we have actually full spectrum capture of your holo image. Your cell phones obviously are going to still have an infrared and a UV filter built into them, because when you're taking pictures or you're taking video using your cell phone, that picture or video, all you want to see is visible light. You don't want to see the UV, you don't want to see the infrared. So that's why those filters are there. But our cameras at our clinic have been converted so that the UV and the IR filters have been removed, so we get full spectrum capture. All the information that your holo image is basically emitting. And these 50 megapixel cameras that we use and 4K video cameras that we use captures that information and is what's used to actually create your selfie video. So going back to what I was saying though, that the hologram of you floating in the black hole or someplace in space has to be illuminated. This is an integrated type of holographic system. Traditional holograms, the light is just simply projected through the hologram and then you have holographic projection. But in this scenario, we have a hologram, we then have a holographic projection, we then have conversion of that information to physical body form. Typically that starts in utero. And basically what's occurring is that information takes about 9 months to download all the data that's contained in that holographic projection. And then you have a baby that's born who then grows up and then consumes food after birth. And the food is what contains the this photonic data. So an orange, for example, on a subatomic level is nothing more than a very specific bandwidth of photons. Vitamin C, for example, just has a very specific bandwidth of photons. So when you go and you say, I'm eating an orange in order to get vitamin C, that's not really what you're looking to get. You're looking to get a very specific bandwidth of photons that are associated with vitamin C. So when you consume the orange, you get that bandwidth of vitamin C. Your brain sends that information of vitamin C photonically back to your hologram. The hologram becomes illuminated. That vitamin C then goes into all your connective tissues, your ligaments, your tendons, your organs, your glands, your hair, your skin, and it then allows for that holographic image of you to project into three-dimensional space. Once that information hits the Higgs field and through the water that's in your body, don't forget when you're in utero, the embryo is developing in a water sac. Yes, there is some water inside the developing embryo, but a lot of the water is on the outside of the body. Once you're born, all the water is on the inside of your body. So this information, this projection of your holo image, first is coming through the mother, down through the water sac, into the embryo, developing embryo, and the download speed is what determines the rate of growth. Once you're born, then when you eat food, that information is actually coming from within the body, through the water, and then is expressing itself into the cells, into the glands, into the organs, into the tissues, and you then are continuing to manifest a healthy human body. And that's kind of how the principle works. If you take supplements, well, those supplements are just simply different types of herbs or foods that have been concentrated or extracted. Well, they still contain various bandwidths of photons on a subatomic level. So when you're taking supplements, you're not taking supplements for the various multivitamins or multiminerals or certain types of antioxidants or cofactors, like coenzyme Q10. You're taking coenzyme Q10 because you're looking for the specific underlying photonic bandwidth of energy that's required to illuminate your hologram in a very specific way. For example, coenzyme Q10 is known as for mitochondrial support, especially for the heart and for cardiovascular tissue. So what that means is that the part of the hologram that's encodes for the heart needs the photons associated with coenzyme Q10. And when it gets those photons, it then projects a healthy heart. And then that converts through the water inside our body. The water is the lens, and it then sends that information via the God particle into physical tissue form, structure form. And then the person has a healthy heart. They think they're taking coenzyme Q10 because it has some sort of, antioxidant or cofactor benefit, but really the reason why they're taking it is because it's just contains certain frequencies or certain subatomic photonic bandwidths of energy. So that's why we have to eat food. We're getting certain photons. That's why people take supplements, and that's why people also take homeopathic remedies. Homeopathic remedies are just simply the extraction of certain frequencies or photons. And so each one of these different compounds that we're bringing into our bodies is really a tool to properly illuminate the hologram. And so the hologram can get a proper projection of the code, the data, the blueprint of that person. If there's not enough light going into the Princess Leia hologram, then you're going to get a reduced Princess Leia projection, holographic projection. She might be missing an arm if not enough light's being projected through that hologram. The same thing occurs here when we're dealing with the proper consumption of certain foods. If a person doesn't eat, what happens to them after a couple months? Well, they're not sending enough photonic data back to the hologram. Then the holographic projection begins to fade. And if it begins to fade, then there's not proper conversion of that blueprint data via the God particle through the water lens into physical matter form. Then their body begins to shrink. They start to get atrophy of their muscles and their bones and their organs and their skin, and they start to shrink. And then eventually when they hit a certain critical point, they then die. But really what that means is that the projection's been completely turned off. The holographic projection's been totally turned off. And so this concept of holocode is basically a tool to allow for the capture of your code, your photonic information, the conversion of that information into a video. Typically our videos last about 30 minutes, but if you're using your cell phone, you only need about 5 minutes. Good idea to capture your face and your entire body in this selfie. You play it to the water, and then you drink that water. And that water is going to basically super illuminate or fully illuminate or more fully illuminate your hologram. And so you get a proper projection of this information in three-dimensional space, which then translates into healthier organs, healthier glands, healthier skin, the removal of wrinkles, the strengthening of your muscles, the strengthening of your bones, improved circulation, better kidney function, better heart function, better liver function. And that's all that we've been doing. That's what I did for 25 years at my clinic. But I was using just homeopathy in its traditional sense. And it would be more of a patchwork. A person comes in, they have certain symptoms. We find a homeopathic remedy based on the principles of like cures like. And then we give them the homeopathic remedy. The homeopathic remedy then patches their photonic deficiency that's associated with their specific set of symptoms, and their symptoms got better. In this sense, we're doing a much broader, we're treating the entire body because we're capturing all the information from your body, see, and then converting it into a video or your own personal selfie. And so that's how the concept basically works. Now this water that we're using has been specially treated. This water is a clean slate. Since water can pick up vibrational disturbances, let's say for example, you're drinking water and you're going to the restroom and that water's going down into the sewer, and then the city is taking that water and purifying it, which they do, and then sending it back out into the community, and you're drinking it. Well, just because all the different toxins have been removed, feces and other types of waste products in that water, just because the physical materials have been removed, does not mean that the vibrational signature of those toxic compounds has been removed. And so we've discovered, or I've discovered, a way to vibrationally purify, not just simply physically or chemically purify the water, but vibrationally purify the water. Bring it back into a more primal state, like the way the water used to be, you know, tens of millions of years ago. Like when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. The water was very, very pure. There was no chemical or negative energetic disturbances of the water. And so this water, because it's a clean slate both vibrationally and chemically, it allows for this selfie of you to be more perfectly imprinted into the water, and the water can then carry that information more perfectly into your body. And so that's why this water is so special, and why we call it basically self-image projection water. The water does have additional oxygen and electrolytes added to it after it's been vibrationally purified. And the water, once you've imprinted your image into this water, it'll carry that information until the next time you do a selfie. Usually you want to do a selfie if you're doing it yourself on your cell phone, like once a week, 5 minutes, lean it up against the bottle of water, and then play it for the full 5 minutes to the water. We have a reflective silver metallic label, and it acts kind of like a mirror, so that when you're playing it, it's actually bouncing off this internal reflective material back at the camera, and then the information then gets sent back to the mirror. So the water's getting multiple imprints of you being sent back and forth within the water, and that's what really allows it to be fully imprinted. The next time you do it, a week later, or if you're doing the professional holo scans, that's typically 4 to 6 weeks intervals, and we actually play the information to the entire case of water. You can actually, if you want to do the entire case of water, you would actually just set your cell phone on top of the case of water and let it play for 5 minutes. But if you're having the professional holo scans performed, then we will imprint the water for you. But this system has been used on hundreds of people to date with spectacular results. I would say 5 to 10 times better than traditional homeopathy, much more specific, based on the principle of like cures like, and the results are being used for a whole host of different conditions. It doesn't really make a difference what the condition is, because it's not about treating disease. We're not treating disease. We are simply re-blueprinting the person on a photonic level. All disease is just simply a loss of photonic information on a subatomic level. That's all it is. It doesn't make a difference if you have lupus, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, or scleroderma. It doesn't make a difference what they call your symptom picture. The bottom line is that different organs and glands have become weakened because of a loss of holographic illumination. Either you haven't received the proper nutrient profile from your food, from supplements, maybe you haven't got enough sun. Of course, sun is just made up of UV light, infrared light, visible spectrum light, as well as many other frequencies of light. And if you didn't get that light, you know, you're stuck in Alaska during the winter months, then you can have a deficiency of, you know, they say a deficiency of vitamin D, but really it's a deficiency of light. And this is a very good way to apply what I'm saying, that everything is based on light information, light data. You know, that's just one little sideline in terms of understanding, because light and vitamin D are critical for bone health and healthy organs and glands, but it's still just light. And that's what we're talking about. So if you're missing certain nutrients, you really are just simply missing certain photonic bandwidths of light. And if you're missing those bandwidths of light in the right way, then it can lead to specific types of diseases. And the doctors, of course, don't look at the disease presentation or the symptom presentation as missing bandwidths of light. They just call it scleroderma, and you have this disease. But what I'm trying to explain to people is that what you're really missing is proper holographic illumination. And I mean, a great way to describe this is, say, for example, a person with, say, cancer, breast cancer. The part of the hologram of this person that has breast cancer is that the part of the hologram that encodes for the breast is missing certain bandwidths of light. Maybe it's emotional trauma. Maybe she was abused by her husband or by her father. Maybe there's other types of, familial traumas that are passed on down generationally, which leads to this whole concept of, genetic transfer of cancer. But really what's happening is that the hologram of that person, specifically in the section that encodes for, let's say, the right breast, is missing certain bandwidths of light. Well, if we were to take the missing bandwidths, because we captured that information from her body or from her breast, and we sent it back to the hologram and illuminated that subsection of the hologram with that light information, then what's going to happen? Well, the hologram of her breast is going to fill up with light, and once it gets to a certain critical point of illumination, it's then going to project a much healthier, more accurate breast image. And that breast image that then goes out into the ethers, through space, through time, into and hits the Higgs field, then converts via the Higgs boson, the God particle, into physical matter tissue. Well, then the breast begins to reconvert into healthy breast tissue. It's not about just toxins and lymphatic congestion and genetic markers and all these different things that modern science says this is the cause of cancer. When you think about it from a physicist's perspective, it's a very antiquated way to think about it, because physicists, in my opinion, are at least 100 years more advanced than our modern day physicians. And the reason why is because they're understanding the universe and how the universe works at its most basic core levels. And the holographic universal principle is one of the most modern contemporary theories of physics that's being used to explain the universe and the earth, and both relativistic as well as quantum-based principles. So the holographic homeopathic concept that I developed is a much more physically based or core based way to think about how the human body functions, or how to think about medicine. So once again, we're not treating disease per se. We don't care about disease. We don't care about all the listings and names and all that stuff. All that we care about is fixing the core substructure. And the core substructure of the human body is based on light and the different bandwidths of light. So this general concept that I've explained to you here over the last 30 minutes is a new paradigm in medicine. A paradigm that really is going to allow us to move into a whole nother level of health on this planet. It's going to take us away from a dependency on drugs and prescription, and which are of course associated with numerous side effects, not to mention the toxic component that's released in the urine. Our oceans are being filled up with hypertensive medications and estrogens and all sorts of different pharmaceutical compounds, because people are urinating all these compounds out of their body into the toilet and it ends up in our oceans. So it's not just simply about the side effects associated with pharmaceutical drugs, it's also about the environmental impact associated with pharmaceutical drugs. In addition, many pharmaceutical drugs are made from petroleum-based compounds, and this once again is not the best way to work with the nature of the human body. It's better to get in alignment with how the human body functions at a core level, and it's better to go from a more natural perspective than from a more toxic petroleum-based perspective. There's way less symptoms. There's basically no symptoms. You could have detox reactions when you do take this water. You could have headaches, you have fatigue, you could get constipation, but these are just simply a byproduct of your body beginning to actually heal. And I like to use the example of that when you're using this methodology, you're actually downloading a new body of yourself, so to speak, but you're also maintaining your existing body. And this new body that you're downloading actually pulls from your existing body. It takes energy away from it, because not all the elements or components of your new body have completely formed in physical, tissue, organ, glandular structure yet. So it has to pull from your existing body. And when that occurs, you go into a metabolic deficiency on your existing body, and that's what leads to the headaches or the fatigue or the constipation. But it's all transient. Once this newly downloaded body creates the internal organelles, the mitochondria, the nucleus, the RNA, the DNA, once all that stuff begins to form, well, then it begins to produce its own ATP and doesn't have to rely on your existing body. And so now your new body takes over. Of course, these are integrated. I'm separating them only for descriptive purposes. But when the existing body gets, when energy gets pulled away from it, you can have some detox symptoms. We call this a Herxheimer reaction. Herxheimer reaction has typically been associated with die from candida, where the organism or the bacteria dies, releases toxins, and then you get symptoms. But this is different. This is more of a metabolic phenomenon. And because when you drink the Holocode water, you're downloading this new body, this new information, and it's actually allowing for a higher resolution of you to be created. It's like going from a 1K TV set to a 4K TV set, or from a HD video to a 4K video. And that when you have higher resolution, that means that you have less wrinkles, you have less white or gray hair, you have less fat, you have less anatomical problems, joint problems, neck problems, back problems, feet problems. Your skin is clearer, your tissues are much firmer and properly hydrated. So that's basically what's happening. And this detoxification phenomenon that occurs, usually it can be modulated by reducing the total quantity of water that you're consuming. So let's say if you're drinking 2 cups of water a day and you start to feel detox symptoms, then reduce it down to, say, 1 cup a day. And then if you want to try again, say in a month or two, or even a week or two, to go back to 2 cups, then you can try to do that. If you don't get detoxification symptoms, then stay at 2 cups. Then eventually, in another month or two, if you want to try 3 cups, then go to 3 cups. If you develop detox symptoms, then go back down to 2 cups and stay there for a couple of weeks and try to do 3 cups again. So it's all about the quantity of water and the iteration of your selfie. So if you've done 10 selfies, the 10th selfie of you is going to be a much more higher resolution, higher definition image of your holocode or your holo image than your first selfie that you do. That's why we do serial holoscans, and you should be doing serial selfies of yourself in order to get higher and higher capture rates. And this translates, if we were to say to associate this with homeopathy, we would say that The 10th selfie of you would be like going from a 30C to maybe a 10M in homeopathic potency language. A 30C is a lower potency and a 10M is a much higher potency. 10M means basically that you have a higher resolution of whatever that homeopathic remedy is. And so, once again, we are working with core photonic building blocks of the human body. We're not worrying about treating disease in a traditional medical fashion. We're just looking at fixing the core underlying structure of the human body, super illuminating the hologram, and that will then lead to a healthy projection, holographic projection of that person, conversion of that information via the God particle into physical tissue form, organs, glands, cells, and then this leads to a healthier, stronger, more vital, younger you. That's it.